Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought we would do a video which is kind of opposite to the one we did yesterday, and this is more about the disappointing parts of the update. Now this doesn't necessarily have to be vehicles at the end of the day, but it will involve some as well, but mainly concepts that they're bringing in and also thoughts that they're pushing forward. So let's get into the 5 most disappointing things of Update La Royale. The first part is obviously the economy changes. Now, I don't mean the roadmap that they're going to be talking about in a few days. I mean the ones that they're pushing through behind the scenes when it comes to this update. I told everybody a week ago exactly what they would do. What they would do is, instead of announcing all of the economy changes, they'll push some of them through in the major updates and even minor updates, and the only way you are going to see them is through data mines. There are certain changes which are being made to the economy in this update, if you have a look at the data mines, which we'll go over soon, and you'll see what I mean. And the economy changes are still coming in. Now, even though I told everybody this a few weeks ago, instead of people being like, okay, let's be vigilant, let's look at this stuff, I just got a bunch of hate from people because, I don't know, like telling people how this stuff works means that you support it somehow. I don't know how that works in people's heads, but c'est la vie. The main thing to look out for is this stuff. Obviously, people have pointed towards the Etondad, but there's many other changes that are being made which follow the same types of economy stuff that Gaijin have been pushing for the last few years. And if people were actually paying attention, then they would see them. But what I said was we'll go through them in the next few days and just kind of show you what's going on. Also, the fact that the EVGA Anta is a GE vehicle, you know, the first Indian or proper Indian vehicle that we have in the game is a premium, is super sad. Don't really like how they do this. It's obviously to gauge like interest in a tech tree for it and stuff, but it just hurts, you know, because I don't want new nations this to happen to them. And also the VBCI2 being a premium. France between 9.0 and like 11.7 need help. They need as many vehicles as they can to be in the tech tree to help players get to those Leclercs, because it's very barren. And since the AMX30 Super already exists, I don't think they need another premium alongside of it, especially since there is literally not a single IFV in the tech tree, and the first IFV that comes in is an exported premium version. The next one is the addition of the Object 211, and therefore the removal of the PT-76 from the Chinese tech tree. Now, the 211 is not looking very good. It's actually looking pretty weak and probably as bad as the PT-76. But they're removing the PT-76, which means that new players will not get access to it. And if I'm honest with you, I'm not just annoyed at that, I'm also annoyed by a lot of people's reactions to this stuff, where basically the reaction of many community members has been, well, it's a bad vehicle, so therefore it doesn't matter if it's removed. And the simple fact is it just means that older players will have an advantage over newer players because they get access to it and can get it compared to the newer players who can't. It's the same thing about event vehicles, it's the same thing about limited time vehicles. But for some reason, because of how it's seen as good or bad, then therefore, you know, it doesn't matter. The one thing to think about is this PT-76 may completely change in the future. They may add something to it, they may give it a round, they may change its BR. They might make it crazy economically viable to play. The thing is, we don't know any of these things because none of us can predict the future when it comes to War Thunder. So if you have a look at it from that point of view, they could change it. Let's say you believe it's bad now. In a week's time, it could be really good, depending on what they do. It could also, you know, get a new mechanic, or other stuff could lose mechanics and make it more meta-defining than it is. So what this means is newer players don't get access to this good vehicle. Think about the 6.7 German vehicles, you know, the Panther II, which is still probably Germany's best 6.7, and always has been since its release. The fact that people don't get access to that sucks, since people like me do get access to it because basically I played the game earlier than other people. Because that exists, that is awful, and I wish that they didn't remove it because it's just not going to be fair to newer players. The addition of retarded bombs is one of those things which is nice to see because it's a realistic addition, but also at the same time, it's going to be pretty useless. With Napalm, they've done several changes to it to make it at least a little bit viable, mainly for it destroying bases in Air RB and AB, and this means that it does have a little niche to it, and I'm sure that'll be the same for these bombs. But just looking at it from the outset, I really don't see the use of these things, especially since they've added crazy missiles and also crazy guided bombs that you can drop at much more accurate and much higher altitudes. These types of mechanics feel like they should have come way earlier, kind of like certain cluster bombs for different vehicles. And that means that because they're coming later on, they're not going to be too useful. One of the positives about it, though, which is nice, is you don't have to research a new modification for them. So instead, you just get them on top of everything else, so you don't have to respade stuff or anything like that. It is also a negative, depending on how you see it, because usually the more useless modifications a vehicle has, the cheaper the useful modifications are, since it is a total divided by a specific amount. The aircraft which are on offer when it comes to this update are also pretty boring if you actually have a look at it. It reminds me of a few years ago when in ground they were adding new MBTs to the high tiers, but the MBTs were just slightly different than the other ones. You know, the Ariete PSO to the Ariete is basically a fatter Ariete. The Challenger 2s, for example, were the TES, and also the other ones where it's just, once again, a fatter Challenger 2. The M1A1, the M1A2, the M1A2 SEP, you know, the M1A1 AIM, then of course you have stuff like all the T-72s and the Leopards, the 2A4, 5, 6 and PL, eventually to be the 7. They all have slight differences to them, but just like we talked about the other day with the Magax, it is kind of dull. And if you have a look at the aircraft which are on offer for this update, it's pretty much exactly the same. The BF2C1 is a nice reserve vehicle. It is similar to what we have in the tech tree, but not too crazy, so that one is the shining light. The F-14B is just an upgraded F-14A. New munitions, new engines, and there you go. The Su-22M4 is the same, just an upgraded Su-22. The Su-25T, hey, guess what? New munitions and an IRCM. Cool. Same with the Su-39 compared to what we already have. The Wirraway is just an updated model. The J8F, hey, guess what? It's a J8 which we already have with better engines and also better munitions. The Tornado ADV, it's just an F3 which we already have. The Mirage 2005F, oh look, it's a new Mirage with new munitions. So it's going to fly exactly the same but different munitions. The Lancaster MR7, it's a Lancaster with slightly different weaponry and munitions. And the PBY-5A Late, which is a copy-paste premium for France. And then, for Sweden, we have the AGS-37. Another Viggen, with different munitions. So you can see what I mean, right? There's a lot of vehicles here, pretty much all of them, which we already have in the game. They just have slight tweaks, whether it's engine performance or whether it's munitions. And a lot of people are going to go, well, yeah, that's what aviation's like, especially in the modern day. And I would go, yeah, you're correct. But it's really boring, because it's just playing the same thing over and over again. And now you have to grind out something that you've already ground out, but is slightly better than the one previously. So, for example, if you ground out both of the other Viggens, now you have to grind out another Viggen. And surely this will get people bored. The last one is the French battleships. With the cruisers and the destroyers looking nice, it's always good to have something to work towards, which is also positive. But the problem is, when you have a look at the Paris and the Lorraine, they have some fundamental issues with them, which are going to make them tough to play. The major one is that they have these really fat ammo racks, and that's completely fine. Fat ammo racks are generally okay if they're covered in armor. But the problem with these two vehicles, they don't have any armor really around their ammo racks. So these are just going to pop like a Christmas tree. Now light up like a Christmas tree. And that just sucks, because you want something to look forward to, you want something to go towards, and if you don't have that, then sometimes it can demoralize people. At least the rest of the good old French tech tree is looking nice, so there's that to look forward to. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and let me know the disappointing things that you see with this update. I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Cupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R., and Lafouche for supporting the channel.